Welcome everyone, I'm J.J. Robinson and this is Vegas Music Icons. On today's show we have a very special guest, a true rock icon and a resident of our great city of Las Vegas, Nevada. Someone I'm sure you're all going to be familiar with. I'd like to introduce to you and give a warm welcome to Mr. Frank Dimino. Welcome to the show, Frank.
Thank you for having me. Nice to be here.
It's great. I wanted to make you feel at home, so I tried everywhere to find you a white microphone, but I just couldn't get it. So we'll have to go with what we've got. Is that all right?
Yeah.
That's cool. Before we started to interview, when we knew we were going to have the opportunity, we went around and, of course, did our research. We collected a whole bunch of questions from fans, your fans, and from the crew here and stuff. And matter of fact, even from my girlfriend. Now, I don't want to give you the questions that she had for you, because she's a great fan, but she did have one question that I am dying to ask you.
What's that?
How do you do it? I mean, you have suffered the ravages of time, and you look exactly the same as the stuff I've seen 20 years ago.
I have no idea. I don't know. Exercise?
Is it exercise? Tell me, please. I'm asking.
I have no idea. I'm just, I just do what I do. I mean, I never thought about that, but it's a nice compliment. Thank you. But
really.
But yeah, I mean, I think as you go along in life, you look back on the things that you do and you try and change things. Living in the rock world in the '70s was pretty crazy. So looking back on that, I thought at some point, after I had my kids, I think I started thinking about.
Okay. But no special diets or nutrition or anything?
I'm a vegetarian. So.
See, you just killed me. My girlfriend's been trying to get me to a vegetarian, and you just killed me. Now she's going to make me because she wants me to look like you. I'm sure, which will never happen. But
there's some things you do. You try and do your best to take care of yourself, and that's one of the things that I thought was something that I should change. So
it's working for you. Like I said, I was amazed. It's like, look at your stuff. It's great.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, you said earlier when we were talking that you started very young in life in the singing world, and I know a little bit about it. But why don't you share that with the audience?
Well, when I was young, my parents got me to start taking singing lessons, and it wasn't something that that I really wanted to do. I was into sports, so I did a lot of sports, Little League and stuff like that, and I think that. It was something I think that they wanted me to have an activity and stuff. So, when I first started with singing lessons or vocal lessons, it became something that I kind of enjoyed doing. I thought, it's kind of fun, I mean, it was kind of interesting to do, but it wasn't something that I thought about very much. It was just something that I did, and I always had to do my lesson before I went out, which was really a pain in the ass. But I did it. For some reason in my head, I guess I thought. I felt good about it, so I did do it, and it was probably, like I said, to keep me off the streets and to give me something to cling on to. But it didn't really make any sense to me. I did opera back then. I did show tunes. I did a lot of stuff when I was very young. I did as we were talking about earlier, a radio show on Sundays. It was called the Newspaper Boys of America. And it was kind of crazy. It was, you'd have your sheet music, and you'd take it up to the keyboard player, who was, at that time, Richard Kiley, who played at Fenway Park and the Boston Garden. So he played for the Bruins and the Red Sox and stuff. So you take your sheet up there, and you'd place it on a big stack, and then they'd go through the stack, and each person would sing as he would take the next song and introduce the person. And but I did that for a while on Sundays, and it was okay, but it didn't really make sense until the Beatles came out.
See, I had to
there you go. The Beatles came out, and I thought, oh, this is something that I can now relate what I'm doing to, And from that point on, I took guitar lessons, and I learned to play piano on my own. Because of my vocal lessons, I kind of learned to play by ear. So now I'm more on piano than anything else.
So you do a lot of composing and using the piano for...
Yeah, it's just a little bit easier for me to see things. And even as I teach today, the piano is a lot easier to get things across to my students.
Now, you mentioned the Beatles. I've got to ask, but because a lot of rock icons like yourself started off with the Beatles, and they have for various reasons. I know Alice Cooper says he started because all the girls that were attracted, so that's why he got his garage band going. what was Frank Dimino's reason behind the? Was it the music, Frank, or was it?
Yeah, you know,
it was the music. Good.
I've heard Alice Cooper say. I've heard Gene Simmons say that. And, you know, it is one of the things that you the side things that you get from that. But it was the music because like I said, it was something that now I could apply what I was doing. So that's how I related to. Of course, all the other things around it were exciting too. You know, the girls,
certainly.
the fame, and the television and the records and all that stuff. But yeah, it was kind of the music. I mean, that was where my head was at that time.
So when you saw the Beatles, the lessons, it clicked. It all came together, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
I saw the Beatles twice play live. So
get out of here! Are you serious?
Yeah.
Where?
So in Boston, at the Boston Garden and at Suffolk Downs. So. Yeah,
You're gifted. You're lucky.
It was extremely motivating, you know.
Well, speaking of that, I guess I know you're from the East Coast, but you've lost that accident.
It still comes out.
Is it? Okay, all right.
I guess you'll never lose it, but
no.
yeah, I moved. I went to Berkeley College of Music for a while, for a couple of years, and then moved out to D.C. where we eventually put Angel together. And then from D.C. we moved out to L.A. So I lived in L.A. from '75. We all moved out there when we did the first album.
Speaking of Angel, it's kind of an enigma I've heard called. It was a fantastic group for many reasons, but it was kind of like some of the other groups that didn't fit into a slot. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
It's like if you listen to your music on the radio, it sounded like rock and awesome.
Right. Yeah.
But when you saw Angel, it was the glam thing.
Yeah.
Now, I always wanted to ask you, going from that glam thing, was that your idea? Whose idea was it to go the glam route at that time?
Well, you know, I don't think we looked at it as a glam route.
Okay.
I mean, but I understand what you're saying, and a lot of people do. In fact, we just got the glam rock.
I was
awards.
going there with that. I was going there.
But our whole thought process was to put a show together, and that's why we had the Illusions, where we appeared on stage. We had an 11-foot logo that would rise and open its eyes and talk to the audience.
Sid and Marty Krofft, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
and then at the end, we would get into whatever album cover that we were doing at the time. The album cover would rise and explode, and we were gone. So it was quite the show. And the idea with the costume was to separate ourselves from everyone else. I think you know, Kiss were all in black, and we went to white. You know, I don't know. Can't remember really if we did it because they were black. We went to white, but I think just white was the color that we chose. Because there were a lot of bands at that time that were in black, not as many as there are now. And a lot of guys that were going out there in ripped jeans and stuff, which was cool, but we wanted to separate ourselves.
Okay.
So we chose to go the white route. And when we started, it was all velvet and satin, which didn't last very long at all on any tours because they started to turn yellow quick with all the sweat and stuff. It was ugly after a while. And then this girl that was doing our costumes said they have this material, and they didn't have a name for it at the time. That was like pliable, really stretch, that we might want to look at. Maybe we can use that. It may last longer during tours. So she made some stuff for us. We designed a few more costumes for our next tour, and she made it. We looked at it, and we thought, we can try it. And that's what we ended up using spandex. It was spandex at the time. Yeah.
The behind the story type thing.
Yeah,
we know.
yeah. I mean, I don't know if anyone else was using it at the time, but when she brought it to us, it wasn't called spandex. There was no name for it, I don't even think.
No wardrobe malfunctions with the spandex or anything?
No, not that I can think of.
Okay,
no,
you want to share those? All right.
The other stuff, there was lots of wardrobe malfunctions. But yeah, the spandex held up great, so that's what we used.
So that's cool. It's interesting to see that it was kind of like a collaborative effort that you went and just seemed to fall into that glam rock thing at a time.
Yeah,
Who knew, it wasn't called glam rock back then. I mean,
No,
not really.
no,
Okay,
no,
that makes
yeah.
sense to me.
You know, I think it, like I said, you know, we were out there looking to try and put a show together, and you know, just ideas, throwing ideas out, and this is how we came to the vision that we had.
And I saw that when you were looking at signing your big contract there for records, you obviously landed with Casablanca.
Right.
And I've heard some stories that you were relating about how unique the Casablanca was at the time, insofar as how it was run, by the seat of the pants and stuff. And I just wanted to ask you, I mean, have you ever seen the HBO series Vinyl?
Yes, I have.
Okay,
Yeah.
All right. Are we getting close to that?
Yeah, well,
Is that
vinyl was, well, as you know, anything on television is overly exaggerated.
Sure, embellished,
you know,
absolutely.
and when you look back on that stuff in your head, it gets overly exagrated as well.
Okay.
So it was somewhere in the middle.
Okay,
I guess.
all right.
You know, there were times that were kind of crazy, lots of crazy times, and then there were times that just normal day-to-day work and business going on. So I mean, it's not like it was party time 24/7.
Yeah.
You know,
But it was that.
but Neil was a unique guy. He was a great guy to work with. He really he worked on the vision that the band had, which is great. I mean, usually you don't get that, When we first did the album, we were going to Capitol, and when we brought the album, our manager financed the album with our producer Derek Lawrence and Big Jim Sullivan, and when we brought it to Capitol, they wanted changes here and there, and we thought, well, the album's done.
Creative
it's finished.
changes?
Yeah.
Oh,
so it kind of set us off. Where we're thinking, maybe this is not the right company for us.
And that turned you on to Neil.
And David said, let's go back to Neil one more time.
And he left us far too early, because it's a shame. Yeah, because he did have a rather different approach to.
Like I said, he was one of those guys that were different as far as being in the business,
And I guess when you were with Ranger, you did open for a lot of other groups at the time. Is that right? I mean, gosh, the list goes on and on. Some really Uncle Teddy.
It was the '70s back then, so it was like you would get on tours, and once that tour was over, when we were in the middle of opening and special guesting, it was like, you pick up one tour, when that tour's over, you jump on another tour. So we were out there for a while, when we went out.
And who were the groups that you were fond of traveling with? I mean, I know there's a story there. I can hear it.
Well, I guess the most fun I had was the very last tour. That was with Humble Pie, because it was with Steve Marriott, and Bobby Tench was playing guitar. So to be singing with both those guys, that was probably my favorite time touring.
Cool.
Yeah. I mean, Marriott would pull me up on stage, and every night, and I would sing 30 Days in a Hole with them. And, and after we were done playing, the three of us would go on a bus and start singing again. So it was nonstop stuff. We would, we were always kind of like working harmonies together and stuff. It was a lot of fun for me.
That's the positive side. What about ones that you weren't so favorable, if you want to mention?
Well,
for whatever reason.
Yeah, the '70s were different as far as touring, where it was this is my tour and you're on it, So you take what we give you. So it was one of those kind of things where you're dealing with a small amount of space on stage, or you're dealing with just a few lights, whether it be red and blue, or if they wanted to be nice, they'd give you an amber, But it was all that kind of stuff went on in the '70s, and it's always a learning process. So you go through it and you fight your way through it, and that's what I think. Those kind of things are what made the band so kind of tough, because you fight through it and you learn to play with a small amount, and you make it work. You know?
But when you were playing with them, I guess you couldn't do your full show, right?
No.
Okay, so that's kind of...
No, that didn't come until we started headlining. You know?
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, we didn't do any kind of that stuff until we headlined.
And then there came a time, of course, where you went out on your own, you and Punky.
Yeah.
And you've done a lot since then. I mean,
after Angel, I did a lot of studio work. I did a lot of made-for-television movies. I did a lot of stuff with Giorgio Moroder. He would call me whenever he was producing a band to come in and do backgrounds, stuff like that. So I did a lot of that kind of stuff, which was interesting because it brought me back to all my learning days being in Berkeley, where I kind of like forgot about it. You know, I did some things like with Steve Porcaro and orchestras and where you'd have to sight read and stuff. So I did a lot of I did a lot of that kind of stuff, which was interesting and good for me. You know, to get back into that.
And then finally, we get you a couple of years ago coming out with your solo album. Which, you know, there's been a lot of people out there, Frank, that have been waiting for that for a long time.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, you know, I think it came down to the right situation had to happen for it. I mean, I've never stopped singing. I've always been involved in something, whether it be in the studio, whether it be working with a band, or whether it be working with other musicians doing things. So, you know, I've always been active doing it. It's just that it hasn't been out to the public as much. It's just been in whatever areas I've been in. And the solo album came up, which at first I thought, you know, I've never approached it that way. I've always approached it as being in a band and writing with a band. So doing the solo album was a nice challenge for me, you know. And my whole thought process was, now I don't have to write for a band. I can just write good songs. So that was the thought process of that.
And I guess you've got some collaborative efforts going on with writing some songs too.
Yeah, you know, I just went to the well with guys that I felt comfortable with, and my immediate thing was I did a thing out here with Oz Fox from Stryper. So Oz and I have been together off and on doing stuff. So we had a local band out here called Vinyl Tattoo.
Yeah.
Which we did some Angel stuff, some Stryper stuff, and then we did a lot of stuff that we liked playing. You know, we just chose the stuff that we enjoyed playing, and that a lot of other bands don't really do. So we've done that for a while, and whenever Oz was doing his Stryper thing, Jeff Duncan from Armored Saint would fill in for him, and that's how Jeff has come out now with me doing the solo stuff. So and I had those guys on the solo album as well. So it's been a nice collaboration with a lot of good friends and a lot of good musicians.
That's good. I noticed you've done some stuff with our local band Sin City Sinners too.
Oh yeah.
Great bunch of guys.
Yeah, all good guys, and I've done a lot of stuff with them off and on. Whenever they need a sub, they'll call me and ask me if I'm free, and so that's a nice thing to just to keep me active and keep me going with.
You were on their Christmas album.
Yes, I did 2 of them with them. Yeah. Yeah, that was with Todd Kearns, and that was the I think the first thing of Sin City Sinners, where it was Todd Kearns and Brent Muscat and Rob Cornway and I know I'm not missing someone, but it's always been, you know, Zach Throne played with them for a while. When Todd left, Zach filled in for them, and now Zach came out with me to do the Whiskey. So Zach was in my solo project there for a while too.
And you were at Vamps recently too.
Yes.
Hopefully you'll do that more often for us.
Yeah, Vamps has always been a good home for me. Danny and Corey have been really good to me. Whenever I need to, you know, a spot to play, whether it's Vinyl Tattoo or my solo stuff, they're always accommodating. You know, I rehearse at Danny has a studio, Desert Moon Studios, that I rehearse at, and it's also a recording studio. That's where I did the Sin City Sinner stuff. It's all like a nice little community of musicians, and everyone kind of like works together. Where In the 70s, it was the exact opposite.
Yep,
You know? It was like you had your tight little group, and you kind of like built a fence around you to keep everyone else out. Now, as we've grown a little bit older, it's nice to have that fence open, and also the rock and roll fantasy camp has made that possible too. Now you see a lot of guys that you toured with, and now you're in a situation where you're working together with. So it was nice because I do that, and I've done that with Rudy Sarzo and Vinny Appice, and so it's nice to see those guys again too.
So you're still doing that, aren't you? That fantasy camp?
It's one of those things that you do off and on. Well, Vinny will call me every once in a while and ask me if I can do it, and if I can do it, I'm more than happy to do it.
What about Raiding the Rock Vault? How was that?
Raiding the Rock Vault is another friend of mine, Paul Shortino, who is a singer. Paul and I have done some stuff together. He asked me to do backgrounds on an album he was doing with Carmine, and when the Raiding the Rock Vault came, those guys have to take whether it's a solo project they're doing or other dates they're doing live, so they're always in and out. So Paul asked me to sit in on a couple of those things to fill in for them.
You were doing it for a while, though, I think, weren't you?
No, I did it for about, I did it 3 or 4 weeks, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I remember when your name came out, I go, wow, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But never got a chance to see you. But once again, I missed it.
It was fun. I did it with Doug. Doug was the guitar player at the time, Doug Aldridge. And Jay Schillen was the drummer. And Hugh from Bon Jovi. Yeah, it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
It was a little different though, because it's like 5 days a week.
Yeah, it's not quite like a band. It's more of like a show.
Doing other people's
stuff. and you come out and you'll do a spot and then come back and then you'll do backgrounds. But it's more like a show kind of thing. It's not quite like which is interesting. Which is a different take on it. Which is.
But the other thing I want to mention, that we're talking about the show thing, your music video, we talked about it a little bit earlier. I mean, it was like, I think it was an awesome effort. And I really, I mean, if it wasn't for me meeting you there, we wouldn't be here at all today, which was a great experience, I might add. But what we're going to do is we're going to break away for a couple minutes and show some clips from that, because it's really cool. And then I want to talk about you and Punky on that, because there's more to go on that.
Absolutely.
All right. Yeah. This is Vegas Music Icons, and we're going to break away to see Frank Dimino's Never Again.
That's it.
Great. Thanks. We'll be right back. Frank, I know what you're going to say, my friend. It was awesome, though. It really was.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun doing the video. I hadn't done one in a while, so it was fun to do and something different too. The first one that I had done was just the band playing.
Mm-hmm.
So with this one, I wanted to do something a little bit different. So we kind of like took the lyric content with myself and Paul Gervasi, who was the director, and Peter Kalish, who was my manager. We sat down and kind of threw some ideas together and did a storyboard. So we wanted to do a little bit different kind of thing, which was fun. It was a lot of fun.
It was great, and of course it was the only opportunity I had to actually meet you there, which was fortuitous.
Yeah.
But who got to drive the car? Come on.
That was me.
Get out of here. You
Me.
you and Steve McQueen.
Yeah.
That wasn't your car though, right? It was a rental car.
No, was
okay.
a rental car.
So let you go
I
out there.
definitely took it through the car wash before I took it back.
That's good. It was an awesome thing. But
Yeah,
the concept was great because I mean, and it's a shame because like with VH1 dying and stuff like that, because I know you had stuff at VH1 at the time, but that for some reason just seemed to die away.
I think that well, it's like record companies did the same thing. I mean, I think you do a record these days and it really doesn't really mean that much. If not for Frontiers, they're the only record label that's doing a lot of that stuff. But a record these days is very difficult because you can't really get airplay anywhere. Mm-hmm. And it seems the radio stations just want to play the same 4 bands. Mm-hmm. And even with Sirius, you have Sirius, which is different radio stations that you should be able to get stuff on, but still it's very difficult. So internet radio is the answer for the stuff that I'm doing, because they don't have anyone saying, oh, you can't do that, you can't play this, you can't play that. So they're open to a lot more stuff. So that's what keeps the records alive. Plus there's also Spotify now, which is streaming music, and they do pay musicians an amount of money for stuff, but there's just so many different areas to get access now that records are very difficult to mean anything anymore. So most of the stuff is live, that's what.
And what about your music videos? I mean, with the YouTube.
Yeah, the videos are really difficult to. You got to put them out there on YouTube, which is the only other place, which is okay,
Yeah, yours is doing pretty good. I saw some hits coming on there. I gave you a couple
and I look to my sons, my sons for new material and new bands, because there's so many different ways to get music these days. Yeah. But they're younger, so they're a lot more in tune with that stuff. So I do go to them. What are you listening to lately? So I just check in to see what's happening out there. There's some good stuff, and there's a lot of bad stuff. But that good stuff gets through somehow. You listen, and you kind of sift through it, and you find it.
It's nice to see that vinyl's coming back, though, don't you think?
It's great. It's great. My youngest son now will not listen or buy anything other than vinyl.
Awesome.
It's crazy.
Awesome. It was a time when that actually meant something, and then we went to that long with the digital thing, and I mean, it just wasn't the same. I mean, digital.
And it just sounds better vinyl. Vinyl does sound better. And you remember when you first got that album, and you put the album on, and you got the cover, and you look through every inch of that cover as the album's playing. It was like a whole ritual that you went through, and you don't get that now. It
was an experience, and I remember, I think when I got the White Album, I would just watch one and then play the other one, because I didn't want it all to end so soon. You want to drag it out a little bit more. But speaking of albums, when are we going to hear it? Your next solo album. Well, I know you got some coming.
I'm working on stuff. I have 3 songs that I've written with Paul Crook. I would like to get Paul to produce the album again, and we have to figure out, again, these days you have to figure out everyone's schedule, because a lot of times there's people doing a lot of different things at the same time. So even with the band that I'm taking out on the road, I have Jeff locked in, Jeff Duncan from Armored Saint locked in to play guitar. But the rest of the guys are, I had Scotty Coogan playing drums, who was part of Vinyl Tattoo, but he goes out with Ace Frehley. So Ace Frehley, I'm sorry. So I have to work around that schedule too. So I had Kevin Kapler filling in for Scotty, and it goes on and on. So it was nice when we did Vamped with all the solo stuff and the Angel stuff. I was lucky enough to have Oz come in and sit in with us. So Oz played the song that Oz and I wrote, "Stones by the River," and a few other Angel tunes and some other stuff that he played with us. So that was nice to have him up on stage with us again. But like I say, I have 3 new ones that I've worked on with Paul, and Oz said he'd like to write again. So him and I will write some stuff together, and you know, it's a process. We'll see what happens and how long. And I don't have a timetable right now.
Well, there's a lot of people waiting for it to come out.
Well,
But
you know, in the meantime, I've been doing a lot of live dates, so that's kind of like the in between thing that I'm doing.
And of course, I think you're going to do some more Vamped, though, right?
I'm always at Vamped. Yeah, I just got a call from Brian Tichy from Whitesnake to do some stuff. So and Rudy's going to do it as well. So we're always doing. It's a nice little community out here, musicians and stuff. So it'll be at Vamped in a couple of weeks.
That's great.
Yeah.
Now, going back to your music video, it was really awesome. But what I saw when I saw you and Punky there, there's still some chemistry there.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, and everyone talks. When is Angel going to get back together? And we talked. You know, Angel is Angel. But what's your feelings on that?
I don't know. I really don't have an answer. I mean, you know, it's funny. Punky just played in town, and he gave me a call, and he said, "Hey, you want to? Would you like to?" I had texted him and said, "Cindy and I, my wife and I, will come into the show." So he called me and said, "Would you like to sit in on a song?" I said, "Well, yeah, of course, I'll do that." So yeah, he said, "I was thinking about the Tower." I said, "Of course, I'll do that." So, you know, going down there and talking with Punky, and I always talk with Punky on the phone, and I just talked with Greg the other day. But when we were backstage, you know, just going through the whole thing was fun, interesting. But when we both got up on stage, we just went right back into where we were, because we did a lot of shows together.
Okay.
And we did a lot of albums together, and out on the road together for a long time. So when we went on the stage together, it was easy to get right back into our positions and working with each other on stage. So it was a lot of fun to do that again. But as far as Angel getting back together again, it's been a long time, and everyone right now has their own life in front of them, and it's very difficult to get that back together again. It may happen. I don't know. It may not. It may happen. I don't know. I'm available to do it. I can always take time from my solo project or whatever else I'm doing to do Angel, because it was fun doing all that stuff together with those guys. So it's just a matter of everyone finding the time and wanting to do it.
And then when you got your award last year, congratulations, by the way, for the award that you got here.
Thank you. Yeah.
Everyone was there.
Yeah. It was the first time that we were all on stage together in a long time.
Was it kind of like, it feels good, it feels right?
Yeah, it felt good, yeah.
That's great. And so many groups break up now with, you know, bad feelings. And so it's good that you guys are still hanging in there.
Yeah, we had a lot of history together, so I think, and time makes things a lot easier to forget and also to remember as well, you know. Yeah. So yeah, it was nice to be together with everyone. We had a great dinner together before we did the awards thing, and had a great time. So
that's Frank Dimino, the rock star.
Yeah.
But we also have Frank Dimino, the regular person. So what does Frank do with his family or otherwise when you're not involved with rock and roll? What do you do as around here to?
I don't know. I mean, you know, it's a lot of fun to be with my family these days. You know, my sons are grown up now, and my youngest one is still going to school, college, and my oldest one works. But everyone is still in the house, and it's great to be with my family all the time. You know, I spend more time with my family now than I ever have, and it's a lot more enjoyable as well. because of the time that I have. Whereas when they were young, it was a lot of in and out, you know, doing a tour or doing things, you know, shows here and there. So now I'm able to spend a little bit more time, and they also come. That when I did the show in Chicago, I just did a show with Graham Bonnet and Yuli John Roth at the Arcada in Chicago, and my wife and my two sons came to the show. So because my wife's from Chicago, so it was great to have them there. I mean, and it's a nice support system for me now. So.
Yeah, it's probably much more healthier too. But your transition, you know, from back east, and then you went to LA, which was like life in the fast lane.
Yeah. And
then you made the jump here to Vegas early on when, as you mentioned, not a lot was happening in the rock world. How was that? You're still finding it comfortable here? Was it a good transition? You enjoy Vegas now?
Yeah. It's comfortable here because a lot of guys have moved here now. When I first came out here in 2001, there were a few guys, but you know, my thought process was, isn't that where rock guys go to retire and do a lounge act? You know, so you know, things were changing at that time, but now they've kind of evolved. So it's a great place to be right now.
And you kind of started it off. You made the move, and then when you moved,
I don't know if I started it off, but I was
right?
there in 2001 when there weren't that many of us out here. But now it's a nice little musical community going on.
Yeah, and that's kind of what our program is about, is to, you know, make people aware of the talent that's here in Vegas and some of the stuff that's available.
There's a lot of musicians out here, and like I said, it's different from the 70s where you know, we used to build fences around ourselves, and now it's much more open. We're much more giving to each other, and it's just it's a good thing, good vibe.
That's great. Speaking of giving, I want to thank you once again for taking the time to come on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
We really have enjoyed it. And like I said, we could talk for hours. At least I could talk, and you'd probably fall asleep. But I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been a nice time.
Oh, it's been excellent. This is JJ Robinson at Vegas Music Icons, and I want to thank you all for watching, and our special guest, Frank Dimino. Thanks very much. Welcome everyone, I'm JJ Robinson, and this is Vegas Music Icon. Let's do it again. Welcome everyone, I'm JJ Robinson. Hey, Todd.